So thank you so much for joining us again. This is the inaugural meeting of this virtual meetup that we are so excited to have kicked off again, digital marketing and AI in marketing. Today, the topic is AI and content creation. So are going to be taking a look at the future of writing, design, and video. It is a lot to cover in a short amount of time. So let's go ahead and dive in. This session is being brought to you by MarketingFrontier.ai. So you can see Jim and I both belong to MarketingFrontier.ai. Tani is our special guest today, and she'll have an opportunity to introduce herself in just a moment. Marketing Frontier is your partner, so we are doing it with you. Your partner in AI integration. What does that mean? We help you identify use cases. If you have a team that needs AI training, if you are struggling with tool selection, process optimization, that is an overlooked aspect of AI integration. I just finished writing an article about this. Change management, integration support. Feel free to reach out to me directly, Melissa at MarketingFrontier.ai. And we asked this in the beginning, we got a bunch of location, which is amazing, but I'd also love to hear about this. So what is one AI content challenge you are facing now? And feel free to drop it in the chat now. Feel free to drop it into the chat as you think of one. But we'd love to see that going in the chat. And as we can, we'll be monitoring the chat and seeing if we can pull any answers or any guidance into our demos to address some of those AI challenges. All right, what we're covering today, like I said, it's a lot. How to integrate AI into your content strategies. So we're going to have a little discussion that we're going to kick it off with. And then we're going to dive into those really specific use cases around writing, design, and video. And just provide you some of those hands-on insights that you get when you're actually interacting with a tool. We did set the level for this at intermediate. And the reason is a couplefold. One is I kind of feel like some of those easier use cases, how do you use a blog? How do you generate a blog? How do you do social media? Like, I feel like a lot of marketers are already doing that. So I'd rather stretch you a little bit and challenge you and be like, oh, I'd never thought about doing that. And have you walk away a little bit feeling like maybe there's some foundation that needs to be backfilled. Then you walk away and be like, oh, well, I kind of knew that already. So just be forewarned that we did that on purpose. All right, let's dive into introductions. Tani is our special guest. Why don't you kick us off?
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you to Melissa and Jim for the invite. I'm Tahnee Perry, the founder of A25, an AI advisory agency, and I provide a series of different, I guess, projects or services to folks who are looking for help when it comes to artificial intelligence. I mostly do presentations and workshops around AI. So if there's an event or a company or a team who really are looking for answers around AI and how it's impacting their work and their teams, then I come in, I craft something custom for them and help them kind of get started and get the ball rolling on how to do that. That's me.
Thanks so much, Tani, and we are so happy to have you here. Thanks for making the time. Our other special guest, and I say that because he's coming to us from Portugal, is Jim Ewel. Jim, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is Jim Ewel. I have been working with Melissa for almost 3 years now, and we have been working on helping marketers use both Agile and now AI to improve their marketing. And that's what we're all about. It's just helping teams get better at what they do and have fun doing it. One of our sort of catchphrases between Melissa and I is making marketing fun again, because we know that a lot of times people are out there and marketing just seems to get no respect and it can sometimes become a slog. And so we want to make it fun again.
Love that, Jim. And Melissa, Reeve, like Jim, have been around the agile marketing space for a long time. We are blending the agility and AI. There's some interesting crossover there. Marketing executive, 25 years experience. diving headfirst into this AI space and creating original thought leadership. And of course, spearheading it at through MarketingFrontier.ai. Enough about us. We are 11 minutes in. Let's start delivering some value. So the first part of our discussion is a panel discussion. And I think you'll learn a few things here. And then we're also trying to answer some things in the chat. So keep an eye on the chat as well. So Tani, I'm going to start with you because I feel like you've kind of been doing this the longest. How did you first start integrating AI into your content strategy? Give us a sense of what that looked like and tools you used.
Yeah, so in February of 2023, so it's not that long ago, I was managing a team of 12 people at a SaaS startup in San Francisco, and ChatGPT had come out in November the previous year, and there was so much hype about it. Everyone was really excited. So I'd said to my team, how about I'm going to give you a homework assignment. Go off and experiment with all of the AI tools and see if we can implement them as part of our day-to-day activities and be more efficient. And someone picked DALL-E, another person picked ChatGPT. There was only a few at the time, and they brought the results back and they were horrible. I mean, do you remember the early text to image generation you used to get?
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, it was a horror story. You could never use it in your marketing. But what I found over time, and even today, it's only 18 months later, everything has improved so quickly, it's unbelievable. So for me today, I implement it as like at every step of my content creation process. So if you think about the very beginning, the strategic planning, who's my ICP, what kind of topics are relevant today, brainstorming blog ideas or LinkedIn posts. Then it's even a part of the production, the research phase. I use Perplexity for that. That's one of my favorites. I use it for the graphic creation. Napkin is another tool that I really love for creating diagrams. And then even the distribution, I've used a couple here, but I like Buffer. I just mentioned that in the chat. Someone was asking about distribution. So really, to me, it's end to end. And I think I'm going to show you a couple of video tools a little bit later on. So I'll save those ones for later.
Great, thanks for that. And Jim, how about you? How did you first start integrating AI into your content strategy? You're on mute, or we can't hear you.
Well, my sons first introduced me to, ChatGPT, and I was just amazed and immediately thought, this is a technology that is just going to change marketing as we know it. And then, I think, Melissa, one of the things that I learned from you was always be using AI. It's kind of like the always be closing, from whatever that movie is. But anyways, is AI has become, as Tani said, something that I use at every stage. I mean, I just think about using it whenever I can. And sometimes I'm surprised, like I think, AI can't do that. And sometimes it can't, but many times it is so improved. And one of the things that I always tell myself is this is the worst version of AI that I'm going to see in my lifetime. That as what it is today, I just can't imagine what it's going to be like 18 months from now. So I think it's really important to start doing things now in order to be able to take advantage of how good the tools are going to be, 12 to 18 months from now.
Yeah, I hear you. This is the worst that we're ever going to see. And I want to echo what both of you said, which is this leaning in, this curiosity. And I keep hearing that. And it's been incredibly fulfilling in my own personal world. And when I think about the AI content strategy, just really thinking about how can I use AI or could I use AI for anything that I am trying to do? My husband even was trying to build an acronym list, and he was dreading going into SharePoint and trying to find acronyms for everything in his enterprise. It was a new area of the enterprise, and if there's anybody in an enterprise on the call, you can feel this pain. And I was like, well, what if you just asked AI to search through that section of SharePoint, or ask AI to search through those documents and at least create the draft. And so it's that type of thinking that really can jumpstart your use of AI and creative uses of AI. So speaking of creative uses of AI, Jim, what's one game-changing way you've used AI in your content marketing strategy, or even just your content
But
marketing?
yeah, I think it was when we started to use some of the automation tools, right? So using, I'm blanking on the name of
Make.com, yeah.
yeah, make.com or things like that, right? And putting together a sequence of actions so that you could have that kind of consistency, and you would sort of start the process and it would take all the other steps. That was a breakthrough for me when we started doing that together, Melissa.
Mhm. For sure.
It's
How about you,
interesting that
Tani?
you bring that up, Melissa, because James had asked about how to automate some of his video creation. So I
Mm.
think Make might be a good solution for that.
Yeah, for sure. And if anybody's not familiar with Make, it's very similar with Zapier. Um, and in that it makes API integration between your applications fairly easy. It's WYSIWYG. That being said, I've built some Make automations, and you can really geek out and go deep into the technical side of Make. Um, so it's one of these tools, kind of like Salesforce, I feel like. Salesforce is easy to use on the surface, and then there's like a million levels deep that you could go on the admin side and configuration side and integration side. And I feel like Make is similar, like easy to use on the surface, and then you keep going deeper and deeper. Tanya, you're nodding. Have you had some experience with that?
I haven't used Make, but now you've given me FOMO, so I feel like I'm going to rush off and try it after this. I do use Zapier. I think my
Mhm.
biggest frustration with Zapier is your Zaps need a lot of maintenance, like feed and caring, because they tend to break and you have to go and check and make sure that the connections are all working. So
Mhm.
it's what I find ironic, it reminds me back. Do you remember when it was like Marketo came out and it's like it's the new automated platform? And I thought this is nuts. Like you need a person to run this entire thing. There's nothing automatic about it. So I do feel like this idea that AI agents are here to do everything for you automatically and you can just sit back and relax isn't really accurate. They take a bit of time to set up, they'll take a little bit of feed and caring, and you want to make sure that you're monitoring what they're doing because it's such early stages at the moment. I wouldn't trust some of these agents to go out there and take actions on their own. So I have an example. So I work with a client in the HR space, and we help them implement it's like a lead qualification platform called Regi.ai. And it's it's okay at its job. The results sometimes it's the choices it makes in terms of writing the emails aren't exactly what you would choose. But what they've done is they've corralled it into a very, it's got a closed box, if you will. So it's only allowed to do a certain amount of tasks on low value accounts. So if it goes completely off the rails, it's not a disaster, and they use it as an experimentation. I think we're not at the point yet where they're comfortable to say we could use this on our enterprise accounts because the person that it's talking to would be like, this is ridiculous. Why am I getting this email? So I think if you're going to
Mhm.
use agents, you just want to keep a very close eye on what they're doing.
That's right. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
I would even say sub-intern,
Yes.
they need a lot of care and maintenance. I feel like
I,
oh, go ahead, Jim.
well, I was just going to say two things. One is I think you always have to have a human in the loop, right? To approve some of the stuff that goes out there, even if you just glance at it and make sure. The second thing is I think this is going to be an area that's going to be hugely improved in the next 12 to 18 months. I mean, this is an area where, almost all the frontier models they're focusing some effort on. And I think this is going to get a lot better in 12 to 18 months from now.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. So I want to share the game-changing way that I've used AI for content, and go ahead and drop in the chat if you know about this, which is Notebook LM's audio overview.
Yeah.
And so this is where you can put a Notebook LM is a Google product, google.notebook.lm. And I like to view it as like your own little LLM. You can load it up with all of your articles and your knowledge, and then you can start querying it just like you would a ChatGPT. And what it does is it constrains it to just whatever you've uploaded it to. And then what it does is it can create an audio overview. So those people who like to learn orally instead of visually or, through other kinetically or whatever, they can listen to the material in this like really engaging radio type show. And we have a podcast. It is Marketing AI Radio. So if you're interested in a Marketing AI podcast, I'm going to give you a little plug there. But it is AI generated using Notebook LM's audio overview. And we have 2 AI generated or AI hosts. So it is entirely AI generated. And the fact that we could do this totally blew me away. And it is a fascinating use of AI for content marketing.
I love
All
it.
right, go ahead.
It's a great tool. So I'd love to see in the chat how many people have created a custom GPT, which is something that you can do with a pro version or a paid version of ChatGPT. I saw earlier someone had asked about or had made a comment about their challenge being they get the outputs that they're getting from AI just feel really surface level. And I think some of the reason for that is if you're just using the free version of a tool or if you haven't customized your prompt very specifically, you're going to get back more generic outputs. So a way to solve that is, and at least the way I do it, I create custom GPTs for every client, for every project, for every type of work. So I publish a lot of content on LinkedIn because that's my lead gen. And I have built a custom GPT specifically for that task. And you go in and you give it all the instructions and you tell it who it is, what it's supposed to do. And then I've given it a set of examples that I like of my style and tone and the structure. And I've named them sample 1, sample 2, sample 3, and I know what they are. And so if I have some content in my mind and I know I want to copy the kind of framework that I've designed previously, I tell it, take this information and convert it into framework 1 or 2. And it's amazing how good it's getting. I feel like even 3 months ago, I still had to do a lot of rewriting, but I keep training it and I keep going in there and tweaking it. And now I ask for the prompt and I might edit 3 or 4 things or 3 or 4 words. Another tip for any of these custom GPTs that you build that's really helpful, I think, for content creators, tell it the words not to use. And I think if anyone's used ChatGPT a lot, there are dead giveaways. It's things like dive in or game changer, or like it just uses these words too much. And so I have this really long list. It's probably 50 words now of things I don't want it to say. And it's become a pet peeve of mine. So you can do the same thing too. If there are things you don't want it to do, you put that in the instructions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, I'm about to do a podcast on tone of voice, which ties into this. And so go ahead and follow me on LinkedIn if you haven't already. And I'll be publishing that out into the LinkedIn feed because it is a whole art and science, just that little part. All right, so we could sit here and chat all day. I love that what we've surfaced. I think we're surfacing some great tools. I want to make sure we have time to give our demos really complete attention. So let's go ahead and let's move on to that portion of the show. So the first one we're going to do is AI in writing. And so I kind of feel like I want to do a spoiler alert, but I'm not going to do it quite yet. All right, so the first one we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how do you use something like a ChatGPT or AI tools to, hang on here, I've got a little screen issue. To show you how you can use AI to analyze your competitors' messaging. So, we all have competition. So how to use AI to analyze their messaging, identify any gaps, and then create content that positions your brand as the clear alternative to that competitor. So, as I was thinking about this, I said, let's use a relatable example. So I am getting over a little medical stuff here related to cold and flu. So I thought, let's focus on a cold and flu medicine. So imagine we're launching a new product, and our new product is called Flu Away. We want the flu to go away, and we need to differentiate it from competitors like NyQuil or Theraflu. And to our friends who are not in the US, maybe those are global brands, I don't know, but think of your local cold and flu medicine. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to use tools. It could be SEMrush, a tool you already have, or SimilarWeb, or even ChatGPT. And we're going to say analyze our NyQuil's homepage and help us surface these key phrases. So there's my little cough. So I went through this exercise. I'm not going to do it in real time. Live demo is a little unpredictable. So the key phrases that I found were fast relief for nighttime cold symptoms. It helps you get the rest you need, and it's been trusted by families for decades. All right, so the next step we've collected the key messaging is we are going to analyze the messaging. So this is the prompt, and feel free to do screen grabs or whatever makes sense to you here. The prompt in GPT, analyze the following competitor messaging for NyQuil, and we put in everything that it surfaced before, and identify their positioning, tone, and key selling points. And voila, we get a very nice looking output that says, NyQuil really focuses on nighttime cold relief with a focus on trust and reliability. Their tone is reassuring and family-oriented. Selling points, quick symptom relief, aids sleep, long-standing reputation. And so this is what AI does so well, right? How quickly can it take large amounts of information, synthesize it, and boil it down into something that is just so digestible? I mean, any of us who are experienced marketers could do this, but this was probably a couple hours worth of work for me. And so to just have that at my fingertips, hugely beneficial. All right, so the next things we want to do is to help identify the differentiators between our flu away and help us identify what are the gaps left by NyQuil that it can help to fill. So then I'm going to prompt it again. This time we're in ChatGPT, based on the competitor analysis of NyQuil that you just did. And you can see here too, prompting ChatGPT is what we're calling this chain of thought. So it's often a series of steps. It's not just one prompt, it's a series of prompts. Go ahead, Jim.
I didn't say anything.
Sorry, I thought I heard someone. Okay, so based on competitor analysis of NyQuil, create this list of unique selling points. All right, so based on that, it says, okay, it's non-drowsy. Nighttime might get a little drowsy, or NyQuil might get a little drowsy. Made with natural ingredients like eucalyptus and elderberry. We have, in Flu Away, dual action formula. So we're relieving those symptoms and boosting the immunity. It's safe for adults and children over 6. And we've got the eco-friendly packaging. So we clearly now have identified a few selling points that might have been difficult for us to have done before. All right, so now this is where the rubber meets the road. We're going to have AI help us take that and turn it very, very tactical. Help me create the heads and the subheads. So now this is where I feel like many, many marketers are already doing this, right? Help me create a compelling headline, right? I've also used prompts that say things like, give it a role, you are an expert web copywriter, or you are an expert at mobile advertising copywriting. So that can be a real way to get AI to narrow in on exactly what you're trying to do. So create this compelling headline highlighting the non-drowsy formula, natural ingredients, and daytime relief benefits. Okay, so it's given me a headline and a subhead. And this is where you can piggyback on what Tani was saying about creating a custom GPT. ideally in your marketing organization, either you have a tool like copy.ai, like jasper.ai, that is automatically preloaded with your brand guidelines, or you've created a custom GPT that knows how to speak in your voice so that when you put in a prompt like this, it is automatically creating and generating headlines that are constrained to your brand voice and your brand headlines. All right. Unfortunately, I can't present and monitor the chat. So if there's anything in there, I'll catch up with it. Or Tani, maybe you're on it. I see her nodding. She's on it. All right. So then you can take it further, right? Help me generate this social media ad copy. So let's generate 3 variations of social media for Flew Away. And actually, I've taken this one step further in my own practice. I have custom instructions for each of the social media channels, right? Because a post for Twitter is not the same as a post for Facebook, is not the same as a post for Instagram. So I have a specific tone of voice prompt for each of these. And of course, the one for Twitter would be constrained to the number of characters for Twitter. The one for Facebook would be optimized for that channel. And you can even say in the instructions stuff like, you are a social media expert for Facebook, and I want you to create a post that is optimized for engagement or optimized for response, or optimized for brand awareness, or however you want to position it. This particular prompt, is okay. It's just I'm trying to paint the picture for you too, that you can get much, much more specific. All right. Now this last one I really like, which is writing comparison content. Okay, so we now have had it analyze NyQuil. We've got our new product Flew Away. NyQuil is the market leader. So we want it to create that comparison content. So write us a short blog post comparing Flew Away to NyQuil, focusing on the things that differentiate us, the daytime relief and natural ingredients. And so here you have it. Why Flew Away is the best choice for daytime cold relief. And while NyQuil is that trusted option for that nighttime relief, Flew Away stands out for those who need to stay productive during the day. With a non-drowsy formula and natural ingredients like elderberry, Flew Away is perfect for anyone balancing work, family, and life, even when under the weather. Now, the interesting thing about ChatGPT and many of these other GPTs is that you could also ask it to create you a comparison table. And it oftentimes, sometimes I've had to remind it can do this, and sometimes it tries and it fails. But you could say, create me a comparison table, and then create the code for that comparison table in HTML5 or whatever you've got going, so that you could cut and paste that into your web landing page. And if you don't have a web landing page, you could say, create the table and create it in a downloadable Excel file. Or you can say, create a table and just put it in a format where I can copy and paste it. So those are some ways that you can extend the functionality of ChatGPT, not only to do this competitive analysis, but to start to put it in a format that's usable for you. All right, so here's the spoiler alert, is that I used ChatGPT to help me create this content. So as I was thinking about use cases that I could share with you, I said, well, what are some really unique marketing writing use cases that you can suggest? Because I wanted to move beyond just blog posts and social media. And then I said, it suggested this competitor analysis content. And I said, I'll be demoing this in real time and have a 6-minute time box, which I'm probably over by a minute, so I apologize. Can you please generate the script for this demo? Please be specific and nuanced. We want to provide value, and include prompts, websites, and tools that you would use. And then I said, let's use a specific example, maybe marketing a cold and flu medicine. And so that's how I got the script. It generated the prompts, it generated the output. Now I could have taken this into a tool like Gemma, GAMMA.app, and that would actually take an outline like that and create the slides. So like we said in the beginning, start thinking about how do I use AI for everything. All right, that was a lot to get through. Thanks for your attention. I'll go back in the chat and see if there's anything else that I can help to answer. But at this point, I'd love to toss the baton to Jim, who is going to demo AI in design.
Okay. Melissa, am I sharing my own screen, or are you going to advance the slides?
Why don't you share yours? So I'm going to stop sharing.
Great. Okay. Let me just get back and do that. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right, I don't know if any of you saw this cartoon from Tom Fishburne, who is, a cartoonist who does something to show about marketing, and always has some great things to say. But he just had this a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I think it was, and I thought it was very apropos of what we were doing here. So how are we using AI right now? Just to create cool images. So that's my section of the presentation. All right, so someone earlier talked about, that they were getting very generic content from their use of AI. And one of the things that you really have to do to get good content is you have to have very specific prompts. When I use MidJourney, which is the tool that I generally use to generate images, I have a prompt library, and that prompt library has prompts that I've used before. And as you can see, it's a pretty complex prompt, right? I'm telling it, for example, to make the image from eye level, or sometimes I'll say make the image from above, okay? I will talk about what the people are doing, the description of the room, the genuine expressions of engagement, what kind of attire that they are using. One of the things that I always put in my MidJourney prompts is something about paying special attention to the hands and faces. It turns out that the image products, and they've gotten better at this, but they still have a lot of trouble with human hands and faces and making those realistic. But if you tell it to pay special attention to that, then generally you get a better result. You can also say to it things like, take it with a 35mm lens, shallow depth of field. You can even specify the f-stop if you're a photographer as to what you're doing there. You can mention style notes, what kind of lighting you want, and all those kinds of things. And when you do that, you get a better result. So this is an example of the kinds of results of the prompts that I'm doing. Now, I usually use these kinds of images instead of stock photos. I pretty much stopped doing stock photos. I'm able to get something better and good enough to use just in the last 6 months or so from MidJourney. So once you, though, get something, then you want to iterate on it. Just like Melissa was talking earlier, you want to either change your prompt, and that's the first thing I will do. I'll change something about my prompt if it didn't produce exactly what I want, or I will use this thing in MidJourney where it talks about very subtle or very strong. And so you just you hover over an image, you click on that, and what you get, if you say very subtle, it will be very subtle, okay? Like if you see the differences here, the guy's hair is a little bit different, okay? His expression might be slightly different, okay? But it's kind of hard to tell the difference in this particular one. If you say very strong, depending on the image that you get, it'll be different. You might have different people in the image. The position of his hands is different. The background might be slightly different, that sort of thing. But you want to play around with that and change some things about the image. MidJourney also now has, and one of my most important techniques for MidJourney is to use parameters, okay? So parameters are things that you do after you've done your prompt, okay? Where you use the dash dash and there's a number of parameters that it has. If you just Google complete list of MidJourney parameters, you'll see all the ones that MidJourney supports. But to be honest, I generally only use 5 or 6, okay? And these are the ones that I use. The first one I use is aspect ratio, okay? So it's dash dash AR and then 2 numbers separated by a colon. So, this is the width and the height in the aspect ratio. So I usually use 4:3, but if you want a square one, you use 1:1. You want widescreen, 16:9. If you want a vertical, you might use 9:16, whatever, okay? Another one that I use that a lot of people don't use is this kind of chaos parameter. And this is how different do you want the images that it generates to be? If you don't put this in at all, the images will be fairly similar, okay? But I use a number that's 50 or 60, somewhere in that range, and I get a little more creativity, a little more difference, okay? You really want to get something where you get totally different ones, crank that up to 90 or even 100, okay? And you'll get some pretty wild results, okay? Quality is another one where it can range from 0.25 to 1. An important one to use, I think, all the time is the style, which is raw. I always use raw because it allows me to make more changes to the generated image, particularly if you want to use something to modify the result that you get from MidJourney. And then this is the next one, the style reference. This is where you want to use a reference image to make all your other images to be similar. So if you have a brand look and feel that you like to have consistent look and feel between your different images, you want to create a reference image that looks like how you want your images to be. Maybe your brand colors, maybe your style of image, just something consistent. And then it's dash dash sref and wherever that image is located, okay? One more thing that you can do, and this kind of relates to what we were talking about earlier about not having certain words in there. Maybe you don't want certain things in the image. You don't want plants in the background of your image, or you don't want stars in the image, or whatever it is. You can use dash dash no as a parameter, okay? An alternative way to do your parameters in the MidJourney image is when you zoom in on an image, it will show you these actions over here. So we've already talked about subtle and strong. One of the ones we didn't talk about was upscale, okay? Whenever you create an image, when you get to one that you feel happy with, you want to upscale it. It will generally make it twice the size of the default image, okay? So if it was 2,000 pixels on the side, it'll make it larger, 4,000 pixels, okay? And the difference between subtle and creative is usually the one I use. It adds some little details in the background. It's not a whole lot different from subtle, but it just seems to create an image that looks more realistic, okay? You'll see these ones here about pan. Do not use these. These are going to go away in MidJourney. What you want to use really is aspect ratio. These are an old way to achieve different aspect ratios, but they really are pretty useless these days. If you pan up, for example, it's just going to add 50% more real estate up at the top and generate some generic background imagery there. It's not very useful, okay? But the one other one that I want to call your attention to here is, and I don't like the name of it, but it's called image here. It's actually they call it a character image. If I want this same, like I really like this young man that's in here, but I want to generate him in different environments, then I use this image button here, and it will generate variations of the same person in different environments. And so that can be very useful to use. Okay. One more thing about MidJourney that they just recently added as a feature. It's a little bit like creating your own custom GPT, and it's called personalization. And what it does is it walks you through selecting 40 images. It'll show you pairs of images, and you choose which one you like, or if you don't like either one, you can skip those images, and it will create a personalized image style, if you will, for your images. Okay. And so you'll want to do that. And so I sometimes use it. I prefer to use the style reference to my image, but this is another way to establish a custom GPT look and feel to your images. Last thing I'll talk about, and Tani, you mentioned this earlier. This is one of my favorite tools besides MidJourney for generating sort of diagrams, and that's called Napkin.ai. And Napkin.ai, you simply give it a title, give it some like bullet points, like in PowerPoint, and then ask it to generate an image, and it will generate and show you different images that you can do, just to give you an idea here. So I can come here on this, and you can customize what you want here. So for example, if I look at my image, I'm sorry, wrong one here. I'm not seeing my customization. Oh, there it is. Okay. You can change it here. Sorry. I'm forgetting how to do this now. I thought I could just click on this and customize and see. Oh, here it is. My palettes. Okay, to do that. Okay, there we go. So I can see the custom and change the palette and change how it looks. Okay, but this has become one of my go-to tools that I use to generate images. All right, Tani, I want to turn that over to you.
Yes, Carol had a question about MidJourney uploading an image, and what she was asking is if you give MidJourney an image, can you recreate that image and then tweak it inside the platform? In my experience, what I've done is I've loaded up like a reference image, like what you're talking about, and it'll give me something close, but it never recreates it. Is that your experience too?
That's exactly, it does not recreate. And the one thing that I don't like about MidJourney is that it isn't very easy to change particular elements of the image. Okay, it just does not do that well, and that's something I hope that it will do in the future. For now, you have to kind of mess with your prompt and try to get it to get something close, but it takes a lot of. I can go down a rabbit hole with MidJourney. I am literally spending a half hour generating an image that wasn't much different than the one that I generated in the first 2 minutes. So
yeah. I've actually found the best workflow for me is I will create an image in MidJourney, and when I'm 90% happy with it, I then load it into Canva. And Canva is a really great design tool if you're not using it, or if you don't have one at your company. There's a free version. They have what they call the Magic Suite, and you can do things like remove a background. You can grab and move items. So if there's a person you want in a different spot, you can delete items, you can change items. It's not perfect, but I think the editing features in Canva are better than what you get in MidJourney.
Love
totally
it.
agree.
So, Tani, I'm gonna cue you up because we got 10 minutes
we gotta
left,
go. Okay.
And I need about the last 2 minutes. So,
okay, let me share my screen. All right, I was just sharing Gamma with everybody. So I'm going to show everyone Descript, and if you've used Descript in the chat, pop it in there. I love this tool personally. It has a free version and you can upgrade for extra features. And the way it works is you upload you can create a recording. So let's say, for example, we take the recording from this webinar. You can just drop the video into a project. And what it does that I think is unique in terms of video editing is the way it handles that. So this is a video I recorded for some of the content I create. And once it's dropped in, Descript transcribes it for you. And you see the transcription over here on the left-hand side, and you can see these are all the things that I've said in the video. And the way that you edit, instead of having to scrub through this video image or the file, you just delete the text. So if I don't like this section, or I said something here that doesn't fit, I just hit delete, and then it goes in and edits the video for you. So it's really amazing at speeding up your editing process because it's so much faster to look at the text and make the changes there. So that alone, to me, is worth having Descript. Now, they also have a section in here called Underlord, and Underlord is their AI bot that's built into the platform, and it has a whole variety of different features that you can apply to your video. And I'm just going to point out a few of these because there's so many. The ones that I really like are removing filler words. If you have a tendency, or if your talent, for example, has a tendency to say a lot, you can just automatically hit this and it will remove all of those for you. Another one that's great, especially for webinars, is eye contact. For example, I'm now looking at you people, but my eyes are off to the side instead of looking at the camera. If we load this video up and we want my eyes looking straight ahead, then the Underlord will change that. Another feature that's great is the way it handles translations. So if you want to create a video if you're a global marketing organization and you want to do it in German and French, then it will automatically translate, and it will also do the lip sync for you. And so you can create, with the click of a button, a series of different videos in whichever languages you like without having to redub or even have someone record it in that language for you. Another feature, like there's all these different things down the side here. You can add layers. One of the things that I really love is captions, because we all know now with social media, people are scrolling in the feed and they don't necessarily have the audio on, but if you have the captions running, they can read the captions. So you can pick a whole different set of style of captions that you like. You can add little elements like you'll see here. I've added a subscribe button. I've got my logo. And so you can do a lot with very little effort. There's tons to go through in Descript, but I think that gives you a good flavor of what it looks like and how it works. Melissa, does that look good?
Yeah, that looks great. I mean, Descript is so powerful, and I've always been overwhelmed by video editing, and audio editing. I use it to do my podcasts as well. And I think you were going to demo Opus Clip
Yes.
too. I think we have some time for that.
Okay, I'll do a really quick demo of that. So Opus Clip is a little bit different from Descript, although they have similar features. And Opus Clip is really built to take long format content and convert it into short format. And they have a free version, just like Descript, or you can sign up for the paid and you get more credits. And the way it works is that you can drop in any kind of link that's attached to a video. I usually do YouTube. So load the video into your YouTube channel and then you drop the link in here, or you can load it up as a MOV file. And then what it does is, this is one of my clients' platforms, and we do a lot of webinars with clients. And so this was a webinar that we hosted. I dropped in the long format, and then it automatically runs through the video and selects what it thinks are interesting clips. And it'll give you a little bit of a description of what the topic is. It tells you, we think this one's really engaging, so they give it 99 out of 100. As you go down the list, the numbers get a little bit lower. And then you can click into the video itself if you want to watch it and make any edits. You get the option to do that. And you can also change, just by clicking a button, the format. So if you want to do horizontal, if you want the video to be person and person on top of each other, or if you want it to switch back and forth, you can do all of those settings really easily. And then very similar, the way you edit the clip is by deleting the text, as opposed to having to go in and kind of scrub through the video file itself. So I really like this one for if you have to create a lot of social content and you've got a lot of long form, this is the platform that I would pick.
Yeah, I mean, this is just another one that saves hours, right? Of like rewatching the webinar, finding those like most interesting clips. To have something that's already suggested is such a huge time saver. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
thanks for demoing both of those. And we had some great questions in the chat too about other tools. So if you've been tuned out on the chat, tune back in. There's some other great video editing tools. We let's see here. Yep. So that's the end of our formal program. We do have some more upcoming events. So excited for these. You know, there's something called the AI time paradox, which is we all want to use AI and we don't have enough time to learn AI. And so our next event is really for marketers, and it is how do we start getting more time to learn AI and integrate AI into our organizations. So Jim and I have some tips and tricks up our sleeve for doing that. And that is just next Tuesday. So that's coming right up. How Agile supports AI in marketing. And this is, if you haven't heard the word Agile, it's a way of working that really produces more flow in the organization, fewer handoffs, fewer wait states. And Jim and I both feel it is imperative to take a look at your processes when you're integrating AI. And so that event really focuses on how taking an agile mindset and agile approach can support your AI initiatives. That's the beginning of February. And then in the middle of February, we have one, and sorry that some of the words got cut off. I think you can fill it in. So this one is really taking a look at your analytics. And I know for me, analytics has always been a pain point in marketing, and AI can help. So we are just having an entire session focused on that. So we hope you can join us for those. Tani, why don't you just tell us a little bit about this QR code and
Yes.
what people can expect?
Yes, of course. So again, my agency is A25, but I also publish a weekly newsletter all about AI and marketing. So if you're interested in receiving that newsletter, it's called Zero to Unicorn, and I cover things that are coming out, tools, workflows. It's really practical. So I focus less on the theory around artificial intelligence and more about how you can use it and really get the benefit out of it immediately. And so feel free to scan that code, or you can look me up on LinkedIn. All of my information is right there under Tahnee Perry.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. And we have even more AI goodness for you. I mentioned Marketing AI Radio. So tune into that. You're going to get this level of AI support and information. And we do have also a free, it's an email course. So every day for 5 days, you get an email that gives you some direction around how do you identify your highest impact use cases. And so that just go to MarketingFrontier.ai for both of those. I didn't have time to generate QR codes for those. Sorry, you're probably QR coded out by now anyway. If you want to reach any of us, we are all available on LinkedIn. At least for me, that's a great way to reach me. Tani and Jim, is that a good way to reach you as well? Awesome. Thank you for sticking with us. I have one more small ask, which is on a scale of 1 to 5, put your return on time invested. So 1 is the lowest, 5 is the highest. How much value did you get with this hour spent from us? And that will be your parting gift to us.
Are we allowed to participate, Melissa?
Yep. Really, really, really appreciate you all showing up for this inaugural meeting. Hope to see you at some meetings in the future. Thanks so much for joining the Lunch and Learn, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Melissa. Someone gave us an 8.
An 8. That's
I know. Almost a 10. A 10 out of 5. Yeah, I would love to thank everybody for all of the amazing suggestions. And it's really great to hear about the challenges that folks are having, because I think that helps me a lot, knowing what people are struggling with, because then I go off and research that and look for a solution. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, with that, I'm going to say it's a wrap and reach out to us on LinkedIn if you have any follow-up questions. Happy to answer those one-on-one there. All right, thanks so much, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Bye, everyone.